This week on Africa Weekly, we head to Nigeria, where the Fulani herder community are working across borders to supply the country's booming red meat market. And then we head to one of the most polluted areas in the world, the South African Highveld, where hundreds are dying prematurely from health issues. But first, let's take a look at the stories that made the headlines this week. Early on Wednesday, Sudan's protesters and ruling generals signed a power-sharing deal, paving the way for the formation of a civilian administration. This had been the main demand of demonstrators ever since President Omar al-Bashir was ousted from office. The two sides inked the so-called political declaration after generals and protest leaders held intense talks through the night over some of the finer details of an agreement that was reached earlier this month. Earlier in the week, thousands took to the streets of Khartoum to hold a vigil for protesters killed in a brutal crackdown on a sit-in outside army headquarters. Legendary South African anti-apartheid singer Johnny Clegg passed away on Tuesday after a long battle with cancer. Nicknamed the White Zulu, Clegg's music was known for its blend of Zulu rhythms with Western styles, performed by multiracial bands in defiance of the segregationist laws of the apartheid era. His exposure to Zulu migrant workers in his adolescence introduced him to their culture and music, and he went on to master the language, culture, and high kicks of Zulu dance. The South African government tweeted that Clegg has left deep footprints in our hearts. He is survived by his wife of 31 years and their 2 sons. Congolese authorities confirmed the death of the first patient to be diagnosed with Ebola in the city of Goma, close to the Rwandan border. Though the region's Ebola epidemic has been ongoing for nearly a year, this was the first case recorded in a major urban hub, and it has sparked deep concern in Rwanda and at the UN. Health professionals fear outbreaks in major cities, where population density and high mobility make it far harder to isolate patients and trace contacts compared to the countryside. Meanwhile, health workers at the Rwandan border have stepped up checks on people crossing the frontier, with the Rwandan government urging citizens to avoid any unnecessary travel to DR Congo.
I'm Jacob Zuma.
Former President of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, appeared this week at an inquiry into the so-called state capture corruption scandal. Despite previous witnesses providing damning evidence over alleged corruption occurring during his time in office, he continues to deny any wrongdoing.
I've been vilified, alleged to be the king of corrupt people.
Many of the allegations involve Zuma's close ties with the Guptas, a wealthy business family that may have influenced cabinet decisions and unlawfully benefited from billions worth in state funds. In response, Zuma says that he is a victim of foreign conspiracies against him and of years of character assassination. New figures released show that Zimbabwe's inflation rate hit 175% in June, stoking fears of a return of the hyperinflation that wiped out savings 10 years ago when the economy collapsed. Many Zimbabweans are now seeking to leave as conditions worsen under President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who had promised an economic revival after succeeding long-ruling Robert Mugabe in 2017. The inflation figures came after fuel prices were raised by 16% on Saturday.
Life is becoming tougher for us because we do not have money to buy diesel. And the price increase means only those who are rich can afford to buy.
The US dollar has been the de facto national currency since 2009, after hyperinflation hit an astonishing 500 billion%. 13 people died in central Nigeria after a 3-story residential building collapsed following torrential rain. Emergency officials said the collapse occurred during working hours, sparing dozens of residents who later returned to find their homes destroyed. Building collapses are tragically common in Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, with millions living in dilapidated buildings and widespread non-enforcement of building regulation.
Usman has covered more than 500 kilometers with his herd. 10 days to reach the Ilele market in northern Nigeria. The fulani breeder from Mali says the journey is long but worth it. Cows are worth considerably more in Nigeria than back home.
It's difficult to sell my cows in Mali or Niger. When I come to this international market in Nigeria, I sell them easily and earn good money. I always prefer coming here.
Once the transactions are complete, the majority of the animals are loaded onto trucks. Direction: Lagos, which has 20 million inhabitants to feed.
Cattle alone, at least we are consuming over 200 trucks a week in Lagos here because of the population.
Individuals, intermediaries and supermarkets all come to negotiate the purchase of the 1,000 cows arriving at the Lagos market daily. Prices vary between 350 and 1,000 euros, depending on the size and the cow's health.
If I buy, I will put it inside the vehicle or motor. I will take it to my slaughter. When I go, I will slaughter to sell my customers.
In the midst of a population boom, Nigeria consumes 380,000 tonnes of beef per year and will consume 3 times more by 2050.
The people of Mpumalelweni, a township in the Mpumalanga province, are suffocating. Asemale has been an asthmatic since she was 4 months old. Her mask is useless to her since medical oxygen is too expensive. Her mother feels like there is only one solution.
I wish to move away, yeah. I wish to move away because this place is not right.
A few streets away, Lifa suffers from the same symptoms. His breathing problems began when he moved to the Highveld region, 2 hours outside of Johannesburg.
I find it difficult to breathe. Sometimes I feel like I'm really going to die. It's bad.
The region alone produces 80% of South African coal and is one of the most polluted in the world. According to environmental groups, between 300 and 650 people die each year from respiratory diseases linked to pollution.
It's very clear that there are some people who come from other provinces, and when they get to Middelburg or around Highveld, they start getting sick because of respiratory illnesses, allergic rhinitis and all that. When they leave this area, we find that some of them get better.
The national electricity company Eskom owns the 12 coal plants in the region. Local activists say blame lies with the state because the South African constitution is one of the few globally that guarantees people's right to a healthy environment.
They are violating our rights. They are violating our right to clean air. They are violating our right to health. That's the truth.
According to the government, the air in the Highveld is already cleaner than it was a few years ago, but they admit that real improvement will take time. Sadly, for many patients, it may be too late to avoid the deadly effects of pollution.
As the African Cup of Nations draws to a close, one of the most memorable stories to have emerged from this year's competition is the success of tournament newcomers Madagascar, surprising everyone with a quarter-final run. The team was given a hero's welcome on their return to Antananarivo, a city that's been in the grip of football fever for weeks. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.